Yeah, that's right.
Your audio is live now, as a matter of fact. So let me just put that off.
I'm seeing still 129 on my.
You see my bad girl picture behind me? Can you see what's on the picture?
Looks like a cell from one of those old Looney Tunes cartoons from the 50s.
It's a German artist. Honestly, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She does this amazing drawings. It's a little girl that's in the corner because she's being punished because she broke something. That just seems to fit me, doesn't it, Philip? Get in the corner. Bad.
All right, everybody, we are live.
Awesome.
Live Saturday morning. We're going to talk about Final Cut Pro. We're going to talk about the summit, and there's a couple of other things that have happened in the post world that we just might discuss. We can just talk about whatever we want to talk about. Now, let me see if I can do this right.
Can we talk about breakfast? I haven't had breakfast yet.
We can talk about breakfast because, as a matter of fact,
thank God you said breakfast. I thought you were going to say Brexit. No.
No, we don't talk about politics.
Way too much stress right now.
Yeah. So I was looking at, speaking of that, I was looking at the map for breakfast at the summit in Cupertino, and there's not a whole lot of choices. There's Starbucks, and there's the restaurant itself, the Parkview, which is actually in.
That's not so bad. I ate there last year.
Yeah, but you know what the problem was? The problem for me, I went there the first time I went there, and I got a menu, and I waited 5 minutes. I waited 10 minutes. I waited 15 minutes. Nobody came back. And then I started looking at the prices, and I realized it was going to cost me $20 for bacon and eggs and a glass of juice.
Oh.
So I said, that's all right. I'll just go somewhere else. So I usually eat across the, what is it? The outside there, the little gathering, oh
yeah.
And I go to the Le Boulanger. They have a breakfast over there, stuff.
I'm Googling breakfast near the Juniper Hotel in Cupertino.
There's not a lot. There's Starbucks. There's one French baguette place, and then there's...
Richard, with your fancy coffee service every morning, if you just brought a bunch of Costco pastries, you could make bank.
I'm on low carbs. I got to find bacon and eggs.
Well, okay, then apples and peaches and.
Well, I might not be low carb when I'm over there in California, but I give myself a break whenever I travel. So we'll see. So one of the things about the summit at Cupertino and the Juniper, is the barbecue place is now a Vietnamese restaurant.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, well, this is
wow. Pho for breakfast.
Yeah. No, that's not for breakfast.
We can get good pho.
Yes, that's what it is. It's pho. I forget what it is. I sent it to Patrick Southern, and Patrick Southern said he would volunteer to test all the food there and get back to us what was good. Not really, but that's what I keep saying. So
there's a bunch of restaurants here, but I think they're far away from the hotel.
Yes.
There's not a ton right
it's
there.
It's not far away.
Yeah.
It's far close.
So I think it was 2 years ago, Roger Bolton and I decided to go grab breakfast. And so we were walking, and you look on a map and they said, okay, this place sounds interesting. And so we start walking. I believe it was due south, but I might have been turned around. And we walk. 15 minutes later, we're like, oh, we're 3/4 of the way there, and we're never going to make it back on time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a bit of difficulty if you're on foot.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. I'll put it out this week. I have a map of places to eat and coffee places that are within walking distance. I've tried, of course, the Starbucks right across the street. Mm-hmm. Well, I say right across the street. Listen, I'm from D.C. We jaywalk. So right across the street is literally across the street, but you're supposed to go up to the light, go over, and then come back down, and you got to hit the light right. So it takes 5 minutes or so. But if it's early in the morning, I usually just go across. Do they have jaywalking tickets in Cupertino? Does anybody know? They do in D.C. They do in D.C. They can give you a ticket for jaywalking if they want to. Everybody does it, but...
Hey, Richard, did you find the Parkview Kitchen and Spirits? It looks like it's really close to the hotel.
Yeah, it's in the hotel. That's the restaurant in the hotel.
Oh, that's the one in the hotel. No wonder it looks really close. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's the one. No, the one I go to is across the courtyard, the Le Boulanger. Typically, they open at
Oh, okay.
7. They open at 7, and they have breakfast sandwiches and stuff. That's the close one, or else Starbucks across the street, one or the other. But usually, I'll eat there. So yeah, I've got them all circled. There's one new place that I'm excited about. Now, last year I ate at Le Habit, I think it's called. It's a burger place. It's a fast food burger, but they charboil the burgers.
Oh, is that Habit Burger?
Habit. Is it Habit?
Habit Burger, yeah. Habit
Okay,
Burger.
Habit.
If you're a burger guy, Habit is great.
Okay, Habit.
Le Habit.
Oh, I'm definitely.
Habit.
I definitely am a burger guy. So that's the place I ate last year. It was really good. However,
it'd be good.
This year, down the opposite way, on the same boulevard, is a place that's called it's like a customized gourmet burger. And they have all kind of burgers, and they have buffalo meat, bison, and other kind of meats. And I guess you make it yourself. So I'm going to try that one. It's the opposite way.
I would do that with you. That would be fun.
Absolutely. We do have to walk. And Philip, last year we went to that Italian place.
Yeah.
Up the road. We'll probably go there again. I'm planning on it. Because they have good spaghetti and stuff. I've eaten there 2 times in a row.
Philip, someone through the doorway to the left of you, I think it must be Greg, dropped something on the floor. I just want you to know, in case he's getting ready for a shower,
No.
that he is live.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
actually, we're catching up on a lot of laundry because we've been without power, and then we've been away and we've been without power and evacuated, and then without power again. But finally, my Tesla Powerwalls are online, so the backup will happen next time the power goes out.
Awesome. Yeah. Congratulations. You're going to have to report in on how that's working. That sounds like a brilliant system.
Yeah, they charged him.
I'm curious about how long the batteries are going to last. That's you're going to test it, right?
Well, it's 22 kilowatt hours, so you just have to work out the math of what we're using, and it will tell us at any moment what we're using. Because you can just look at the app and see what power is coming into the Powerwall, what power is coming from the Powerwall, what is being used by the house. So it's not bad.
How large a solar array do you have feeding it?
None.
None? Oh, it's just a power bank.
It's just power bank because we're subject to these public safety power shutoffs. So we can be without power as soon as the wind gets into a red flag situation. Our power goes off for at least a day, 2 days, until after the wind condition has died down and they can inspect. So
this neighborhood is on alert because of the Ramona, but it looks like the winds have shifted, so we're probably okay today. But we were getting messages from the schools yesterday that they might have to send kids home if it got bad.
Yeah, I hear the news said that the winds were going to shift from offshore to onshore, which will really help with the air quality and the fires, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just hoping that we have power for the summit. That would be a real drag.
Another real drag though is that we're not going to go to Apple Park. I see yesterday.
We're going to talk. Let's talk about that since we brought it up, Philip. So all these months we were told, and I think Future Media was told as well, that we would have exclusive park visit. And this last week, Apple told them we're not going to do that for some reason. I was wondering if it's because they're going to have an Apple event there, and they're going to prepare for that.
Oh, that's a possibility. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, because remember in 2016, Philip, they had the event the day before.
Just like,
Thursday. Yeah. And so if they're doing that, they're probably not going to be able to accommodate another group of 100, 150 people in there because they'll be still dealing with cleanup or whatever. So that's what I'm thinking it is, possibly. Because listen, they have the iPad Pro rumor. They have the 16-inch MacBook Pro rumor. They even have AirPod Pros rumor.
That's right, yeah.
So that's 3 Pro devices, and then, of course, the Mac Pro and the Pro Display, which have been announced previously. So they certainly could have an event to just show all those Pro devices. They haven't announced it yet. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Well,
I mean, I called my business rep at the Apple store yesterday because after this recent trip, I really want an iPad Pro. I'm so tired of lugging a heavy laptop around. So I was going to go over there and get one next week, but maybe I should wait. What did you hear about it, Richard?
Well, it's 16 inches. It's the same size, but the bezel is smaller. So it's 16 inches, and it's going to be the top end, though. It's going to be the high end.
Yeah.
So
I actually believe that the reason that they wouldn't let us in there is because they're testing an autonomous, fully flying vehicle inside the ring, and no one can see that. So they have had to shut down all access. That's my belief.
It's just like there's anything.
Exactly.
Projecting wildly. Why not go really wild?
Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
did yesterday, though? I wrote to Danny when I got that email about us not going to the Apple campus. I wrote to Danny and I said, you know what? I'm really there for you guys and for all of our friends that are going to be there and where we do it. Yes, it's nice to go to Apple, and I'm sure we'll get the announcements anyway. I said, but wherever we are, it's going to be great. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, that's true. I mean, we come there to see, this is like a great, Final Cut Pro community deal where we get to see each other once again for the first, since NAB anyway. But that was a big deal. I think Brad was bringing his wife just to go because she was going to go see the Apple Park. So I don't know what happened from there, but
We'll see it. There it is over there.
There it is.
well, that's true. Listen, it's not Future Media's fault.
No.
It's like I said, it could be, something happened because all summer long we were told, unless there was a miscommunication, that was the deal. And then the week before, oh no, we're going to change our minds. But it's okay. Listen, that was fine. Going to park. It's much more important. I want to see the Pro Apps team demonstration. I don't care where that is.
It is, yeah. And the feedback session.
Yes. The feedback session could be.
That's on Saturday. Yes.
Right.
Before
so
lunch.
That's everybody's chance to let Apple's inside Final Cut team understand what your thinking is if you want to stand up and tell them what your thinking is.
Absolutely.
Not to say that anybody's going to do anything based on your thinking, but at least you'll know that it's unlike, and we've all known for a long time that they do try to go through and read all the correspondence, all the things from the app that I want to turn in, whether it's a bug report or just a feature request or whatever. We know that there are people there who go through them all. But with the volume they must have, they must go through and categorize them and say, here are all the people who are upset about, a lack of dupe detection or whatever. And other than Sean's name being really big at the top of that, there's a huge that goes for miles and miles down there. And so I can't imagine they can do anything more than just add that and track who's worried about which subject or concerned about it. And undoubtedly, bugs that are reported through that system, I'm sure, percolate. Reproducible bugs that affect a lot of users percolate to the top of the to-do list always. So feature requests, some people aren't looking, or even one person's looking for this. It's an interesting idea. We hadn't thought of that before. Let's kick it around in a meeting. That's how I imagine it happens.
Now, I heard that they have a dartboard with Sean Lander's picture. It says dupe detection, and they keep throwing darts every time they have a Pro Apps meeting.
It's important to remember too, that when you're communicating your desire for a feature to the Pro Apps team or to any software development team, don't tell them how the feature should work. Tell them what you're trying to achieve, because often we're limited by our own perspective, and so we think that it should be done this way. But if you tell a development team what it is that you're trying to achieve, they could say, yeah, we could do it that way, but wouldn't this way be a whole lot more interesting, a whole lot smarter, or give us all extra benefits? So it's always important to ask for for the benefit that you want, not the way you want it to work.
Excellent point, Philip.
Yeah, the other advice you gave me at one point, Philip, when we were talking about captioning, when captioning, the new way of captioning came out, you said, don't give them a whole list. Do one bug at a time, one request at a time, so they can focus on that. And that, I thought that was really good advice.
Yes, if you're sending feedback, just don't load it all into one feedback form. Do each one, because they have to file them independently. So if you If you make it harder for them, it's less likely to go into the pile.
Right. It's interesting, you mentioned captioning. I've used captioning, I think, 4 times in the last month, and none of it for actual captioning. I'm sending off large audio files for interviews to. I happen to use Simon Says, but whatever. They're just captioning things. I'm sending them up. I'm getting them down, and I'm just using that for transcripts to send to clients so that clients can mark it up on paper. And so I actually don't usually do the subtitles or the captions from that, but as a transcription service, it's brilliant.
I use Lumberjack.
You guys
say you're making it hard for yourself if you're not using Builder, but I mean, I thought you knew that anyway.
Yeah, I should probably look back at it more, but it's just been a process of too much stuff to get done. We've been just roped.
So there is
you're an example of somebody and this is something that happens to all of us. We get so busy that sometimes we don't just stop for a minute and look around and say, okay, this isn't working. I've got too much to do. I'm overwhelmed. What can I do to fix it? And we don't take the time to fix it. And that's really hard to do when you're really, really busy. And I 100%
agree.
That.
Serena,
One of the seven habits of highly effective people is taking time to sharpen the saw.
Yes.
So the principle is you have to step back every so often to make sure that your tool set is as sharp as it can be. Otherwise, you start to cut down a tree with a very blunt saw, and you will spend a very, very large amount of time working on a tree. Whereas if you took a little time and sharpened the saw, then the tree would be cut so much faster.
Yeah, I totally support that. And you get to the point where you're just going back to things that make you feel comfortable, even if what it's taking you back to was a comfortable process I know how to do, but that it incorporates a lot of pain. It's like, This thing doesn't work the way I want it to. Damn it. Well, I've got to go use it again because I haven't taken the time to learn something else.
Right.
So you just keep revisiting the pain.
Long term, I've said you need to spend 20% of your working week sharpening your skill set. If you're not spending, the equivalent of 8 hours a week on improving your skill set, you are falling behind.
Yeah. Good point.
You're right, Philip. I got an email yesterday.
There's a perfect interest line for Brad. There you are, Brad. Are you falling behind?
Hey, Brad.
Always. Today, yes. Very much so, falling behind. I woke up late and saw Richard's text saying, hey, we're on the call. I was like, I got home at 1 last night. And I was really tired. Yeah.
Party animal?
No.
You still have yesterday's makeup on?
I washed it off, actually. Is there some lipstick still here?
I can't see.
There's still a brown smear around your face.
There's what around my face?
A brown smear.
A brown smear.
Just around the face, where the growth is.
The beardness.
It's the brown smear.
So
He's been inspired by Patrick Southern.
Brad, we were talking about the cancellation of the visit to Apple Park.
Yeah.
So did you, what's going on with you and your wife coming up now? Because I know you wanted her to see the Apple Park.
Yeah, so at first I had the thought of, do I just get a refund on her pass? But then I was listening to your show the other day with the crossover show with Chris Fenwick.
Right.
And he had a brilliant idea, which was to get a tabletop and save $400 or $500. And so I reached out to FMC and thought, I could play off the tracks and have a booth with some stickers and stuff, or tables. So
you did
I went that route. I canceled the passes, became a tabletop exhibitor sponsor, and saving some money. So my wife will still be joining me. She's going to be probably, she may still come on the Apple Day. And
right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I guess there's a what was it, the email that they sent out said something about a designer
presentation
engineer.
From the architect.
The architect.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
And I still think they hopefully will have something cool for us to see, even though we'll be over at the Apple Loop like other years. And not that isn't a cool experience. It's just, we've been. Last year there was rumors we might get to go to the spaceship campus, and this year it was like, yeah, we're definitely going, and never mind. And Now it's like maybe next year. So Apple just keeps teasing us. But
well, I think something changed.
yeah, you're thinking might be an actual like press event that week. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that would be a good reason why they would cancel. If in other words, in 2016 they had the event right before the day before the summit. So if they're going to have another, they haven't announced it yet, but they could have it once again the day before the summit, and then they don't want to accommodate another group of ruffians like ourselves over there after they prepared for the event. If that happens, I mean that's the thing that I'm thinking of. So we'll see. We'll see.
I think that's a possibility. There's definitely rumors about iPad Pro, 16-inch MacBook Pro, and some other devices. AirPod Pro.
AirPod Pros, exactly.
Philip will be getting AirPod Pros, I guess, because his AirPods were causing a problem.
Well, I would.
They've settled down. They've actually been quite good. But my new favorite thing is active noise cancelling headphones for the air flights. That's been fabulous. But anyway, that's a side trip. AirPod Pros, maybe not.
Yeah, depends on what the Pro is, right?
Well, I think it's active noise cancelling is what is the feature that I've heard.
That's the only thing?
Well, that's the major different feature.
Okay.
I mean, I think obviously better battery life and all those things you'd expect to get better every time.
Okay. Serena disappeared.
She might have
I'm trying to rejoin the call. Hang on a minute. I realized when we're talking about iPad, the AirPods, that I was listening to you on the speakerphone of my iPhone.
There you go.
So now I'm on the AirPods. Can you hear a difference in my resonant voice? Probably not. No.
Actually, not as much as you'd expect.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. By the way, guys, PG&E just announced weekend power shutoff in Cupertino, and there are fires near the San Jose airport. I think things will be settled down by the time we get there, but the air quality is probably going to be pretty bad again.
No, wait a minute. Canceling the trip to the Apple Park is one thing. Going there and saying we don't have electricity is a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different ballgame, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah. But, so I just looked on the fire map. The entire north section of the state is red, high alert. And PG&E 2 hours ago announced the weekend power shutoff in Cupertino, specifically in Cupertino, and the San Jose airport has fire near it. So I think by the time we get there, I just feel so bad for all these people. My gosh, last year, remember how bad it was for them?
Yeah.
So are we going to be the Final Cut volunteer fire brigade?
That was last year. This year we had to be electricity.
Final Cut fire folk. We can be the Final Cut fire folk.
Fire folk. Yeah,
there you go.
I've got the alliteration going.
So one of the things that came up this morning, I don't know if you saw it or not, I'm going to bring it up on screen here, is 7.5 million Adobe accounts exposed by security blunder, right?
Cool.
Now, here's the thing. What surprised me was 7.5 million.
Well,
accounts, right? So that's got to be global photographers, global
everything.
I mean, undoubtedly, with all that they do, I could easily believe they have 7,000 names or 7 million names in a database. Sure.
They've announced 4 million Creative Cloud subscribers last that I heard. So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But maybe that includes people who are no longer active subscribers. That would maybe accounts ever created.
Okay. Good point, Philip. Good point.
Yeah, because they had my stuff, and I haven't. Unfortunately, this is not a slam on it, but I just haven't used any of their software in about 2.5 years now, and I'm sure I'm still in the database.
I'm sure you're still being sold.
I am.
Well, and a lot of people don't subscribe every month. Some people just use one or two solutions, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody.
Adobe do make that hard. That they really push everyone towards the all-in-one bucket subscription.
Right, I tried, and this was 2.5 years ago, or more than that, because that's when I was having my main. So maybe 3.5 years ago. So this may not entirely be relevant to now, but I tried. Somebody said, "Well, you can just pop on for a month and pop off." So I said, "Well, let me test it. Let me see if I can decouple from my subscription and then resubscribe." And it was not a pretty process at all.
I did it 2 years ago, and then again last year for some jobs, and it was as long as I selected the month to month, and it was a single app, it was fine.
Good.
Okay.
Good. So they've cleaned up that stuff. Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And then the other interesting news, I'm going to go some of these things real quick. This was kind of a surprise. Red quits the smartphone business.
Yeah, that surprised me too, because you just had Michael Cioni on with his Hydrogen One phone, and then like within a week, it's like, nah, that's over.
And the funny thing,
it's over at the same time that Janard retires. So I mean, that suggests that maybe that was his project rather than, a Red Digital Cinema project per se.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That there you go.
Apparently, there was just an announcement on the Red Hydrogen board. That was the only way that people found out.
Why typical Red? I can't imagine why on earth any company would want to immerse themselves in a new business in the smartphone arena when Apple and the iPhone, I mean, why?
Dominate.
Yeah, not only do they dominate, they have a great product. And I'd like to know how many people are buying iPhones. Do we know?
A lot.
Yeah.
Generating
Let me tell you
billions
something.
of dollars a quarter.
But there are a lot of there are competitors out there, and the people who do other phones. That's globally, that's a big business. So I can see why somebody would think there's a niche. I questioned whether it was the high-end content creator, but who knows? I mean, But I'm looking around the landscape, and a lot of those high-end niche people who did things like Leaf cameras, and in the photography space, that even some of those great brands like Leica that have been around for decades at the kind of Cadillac Rolls-Royce end of the market are having deep trouble. So today you've got to do a insanely great product, plus you've got to scale it enough so that it doesn't get ridiculously expensive for people, because people
I can just see the board meeting at Red, and they're going, oh, the smartphone business is increasing. We need to get into that space. And around the table, they go, yeah, we should do that. And then they do it, and then they realize that was a dumb idea.
But I mean, it's not. We've all seen this move towards smarter phones smarter cameras in our phones.
Yes.
And it kind of makes sense that we're going to see more and more of this. I mean, you could build a better device, but then Apple's just going to release a software update to their really heavily processed images to make their camera improve, even though they've done nothing to the hardware. So it's not impossible that a digital cinema camera would say, why can't we make a better camera for this position, for this role, for this new portable cinema production? It's also a phone because we want that connectivity, not that we want a phone, but we want all of the apps that go on a phone device and the connectivity. Having a camera that's connected to the internet is ever more powerful than having a camera that needs to be offloaded from a card. So it is hard to get people to think of the device as a different thing. I faced that just recently. I was doing a set of interviews with a doctor here in Southern California who's working on longevity, on people living longer. And it was interesting. One of the points he made in the thing is the image of a doctor is still a guy with a stethoscope hanging around his neck. And yet they haven't used stethoscopes for much of anything in a long period of time. And he said it would be much smarter to have him holding a smartphone, because the way that these doctors work, access to information is a much bigger part of the practice of medicine these days than having a thing around to monitor pulse or heartbeat. I mean, you can do that with telemetry and the rest of that kind of stuff. So his point, and he's a really smart guy. He was part of the team that won the Nobel Prize for breaking the genome. One of the things that he was passionate about was that you get these ideas and they get sticky and people don't question them. And that what really moves things forward is questioning basic assumptions. And it's exactly what Phil was talking about earlier in terms of taking that time to say, is what I'm doing, it's effective, it's working, but is it the best that I could do? Or can I make some changes that will boost my productivity even farther so I have even more time to dream about what my future might look like? Interesting stuff.
I would say my commentary on the Red Hydrogen is that clearly at the point it came out, it was in how long it took to develop, it was too little, too late compared to the rest of the smartphone market. However, I can see if you fast forward 10 years from now, and Philip, I think already nailed the whole idea of, are we really going to be pulling media from a camera? And we're not. We're going to be sending things through 5G. It's going to be on the cloud. We're going to be downloading it instantly to our edit systems. And Michael Cioni moved to Frame.io to make that dream a reality. So are we going to be shooting with the same kinds of cameras that we're shooting with today? I don't think so at all. So if you want to plan for the next decade, you've got to start designing something now. Even if it's not going to be a commercial success now, it's kind of like a prototype working towards the direction of the future. And so I think that's what he's trying to do, but he's a 70-year-old guy. He has health issues. And I can see Red not wanting to continue that right now. But I'm sure some of the technology and some of the things that they learned from that will be incorporated. You'll have a 5G modem built into a Red within the next 5 years. So there's some value on the R&D side. As far as the commercial success of that, I don't think, A, that's what they were even worrying about going for, and B, clearly it wasn't going to be sustainable for the company anyway. So
one of the
there's
things
different sides to it.
One of the things that I was asking Michael, because Michael Cioni, of course, was talking all about that exact thing when he was on Final Cut Pro Radio last week. And what format was the Red phone? Was it going to record in Red somehow? Red?
It had the inner workings to be able to do Red code.
Okay.
It wasn't currently available to do Red code. And I think I have a 1-year-old banging at my door, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, it had that odd port on it. I think the idea maybe was to attach that high-speed port to some off-board recorder / internet feed device, whatever. I think that was kind of the long-range vision. It didn't so much it wasn't packed with memory that you could record it on your phone so much as it was a feed device, as I recall. I didn't look closely into it.
Yeah.
No.
I'm probably the only person in this room that is not in love with the cloud. I use the cloud, but I hate it. I hate it. I mean, I just got back from 3 weeks in a remote area of Sicily where when I did have internet, the upload speed was 0.08.
But
that's a 1200 baud modem.
That's not the cloud's fault, though.
And it kept disconnecting. No, but that's why when you're traveling on assignment as a journalist or a filmmaker, I'm not talking about studio productions where everything is wonderful and you have fiber and you can work. That's great. But when you're doing the kind of production that involves being in the field, the internet is not reliable. And there are a lot of times when you just don't have it. So there's two different camps to working with media. And I was very frustrated. It was very hard for me to meet my deadlines when I had very little access to the internet. And so, yeah. And then, anyway,
well, I think the solution for that is supposed to be the solution for that is supposed to be what the phones do with store and forward. It'll have enough memory locally so that it'll record, and then when it sees a cell tower or something else, it'll commence.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping back into this, but what Bill's saying is, I think part of the equation, it's not that you won't have your media locally accessible. I can even imagine some sort of wireless modem device that you carry with you, or some sort of wireless device that may store everything locally. So if you lose connection, you still have access to everything. It's just the cloud is kind of the central place. The other thing, though, is there's companies that are investing a lot of money into building satellites that are going to be surrounding the Earth, that are going to make internet universal across Africa and South America and all these hard-to-reach places. There's a lot of incentive. I don't think this happened with Facebook, but they were even talking about flying drones over. But I think it'll be a satellite solution. So no matter where you are on Earth, you'll be connected, which is currently not there. I was using a
satellite phone on Stargate. There's a picture of me in the middle of the desert with nothing around, and I'm sitting on an apple box. How pun intended, I guess. I'm sitting on an apple box, and I'm on a satellite phone, talking to the studio from the middle of Buttercup Valley in Yuma, Arizona. So satellite's been around. Actually, my very first job ever was at 19 as Fremdsprache-Korrespondentin at SEL in Germany, building the SATCOM-2 satellite, which ultimately failed. Maybe that was my fault.
You shouldn't have gotten the satellite business, Serena.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
There's a lot of cloud, cloud integration in LumaFusion, the multi-track editing tool for iOS. I mean, they will work wirelessly with Narbox and a Western Digital Wi-Fi. They hook into Frame.io in the latest release. They hook into Dropbox. So you have a lot of ways of getting media to it. And they're smart in that when you import a piece of media, it imports in a proxy is what you're working with. But when you export the final product, it actually pulls in the full resolution frames from the original storage and puts them into the output that it's working with. So it's a really good hybrid. It's a great piece of software. And how they can afford to sell it for $20, I have no idea. I hope they sell a lot because they've done a really, really excellent job of making a powerful professional editing tool on iOS. It's a great. If you haven't looked into it, I recommend it thoroughly.
No, I've had them on the show multiple. Yeah, I've had them on the show multiple times, and it's actually $29, Philip. It was on special for 19 for a little while, and every once in a while go on special, and they're incredible what they're doing with that thing. And I'm really impressed with the Narbox too. I'm tempted to get one myself because you can just offload cards without a computer.
I have a Narbox One. I was an early backer of that because I thought it was such a good idea. And at the time, we were traveling and doing lunch with Philip and Greg and having a lot of trouble offloading in the field without having a laptop. So it seemed like a really smart solution.
There's a company called that was doing, and I've used them. I have 2 iterations of the Nexto DI. I don't know where they are now, but that kind of battery-operated device that allows you to transfer your cards in the field or that connects to your laptop. It's invaluable.
But Nexto didn't carry the time of day. Nexto didn't carry the time zone information. So, for Lumberjack, it screwed me.
But Narbox, I'm going to try the new version because the first version that I was using just wasn't working well. I'm so excited, though, to see the new version. We'll see. How much are they, Philip? Do you know? The Narbox?
I don't know what the current price is. I paid a ridiculously low amount because I was so early.
Huh. So who has a tip for about the summit, about going to the summit? It's not a matter of getting good shoes because you don't really walk that far like you do for NAB.
I'll go back to my original tip for all conferences that is universal and no one has ever been able to break it down is that you're not going to see stuff, you're going to meet people.
Yeah.
That should be your number one agenda item. What you see is not that important. Who you potentially meet can change your life.
It's going to feel a little bit different without Jeff Greenberg and without Mark Spencer around. That's going to feel a little different this year.
But we need to send a congratulations out to Jeff and a mazel tov. He has a new baby at home, and that's why he's not coming. And those are the kinds of things that you learn the older you get are way more important than the next software rev. So,
of course it is, yeah.
Congrats, Jeff.
And I think Mark's going to stop in for one day. He lives close by.
Yeah, Mark's going to try to get there. That's what I saw from his post the other day.
Yeah. He's not going to teach, but he is going to stop by.
So I just answered a question before. The Narbox 2.0 SSD, it's 200 for 256 gig is 500, 512 is 600, and 1 terabyte is 900, which compared to other SSDs is reasonable. If you go to the 1.0, then 128 is 279, and I don't know why you would get a 1.0. And a 256 is 400.
Not at this point.
So, yeah.
Because they're in a warehouse and they need to sell them, which is perfectly okay.
No, so you can get one as low as like $300 or $400 if you get the 1.0.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, and I'm going to do a comparison between the Narbox and this Envoy Pros that I use that are really tiny that are 1 and 2 terabytes.
Can you, Serena, can you load cards directly to them though?
No, I can't.
That's what. See, the Narbox. The Narbox, you can put a card in, and it'll offload without a laptop being connected.
And you can browse and preview off a phone.
And also, it's
working like the Nexto. It's working like the Nexto was, only better.
It also has
way better.
It creates its own Wi-Fi. You can connect directly with it without a Wi-Fi wirelessly. It has its own, built-in. So those are two big things. Putting a card in and having it offload to the thing and checksumming it too is really beneficial.
I use this little travel dock from OWC, and I connect the Envoy Pro to this tiny little travel dock.
Right.
And the travel
Yeah, but you still need a laptop.
Yeah, but you don't need a laptop with Narbox.
Unless you go to the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro has USB-C.
You don't need anything.
Narbox is completely self-contained and connects wirelessly. You can connect storage to it, but it connects to your
network. And it
network.
has USB-C as well.
Yeah.
And you can hook up card readers. You got CFast 2 card reader. I'm looking at all these. They've got a CF card reader. So they have different types of adapters. Thing is, what I'm shooting on right now is already a hard drive with the Blackmagic Pocket. I'm already shooting onto these, but I think the Narbox is a great solution for a lot of people. And with LumaFusion and iPad Pro, you're off to the races.
Speaking of
LumaFusion, go ahead.
Speaking of LumaFusion, they have stepped up and they are a platinum sponsor of the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit this year. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I had them on the show, and before they came on, and I checked, and I said, "You guys are a platinum sponsor this year." So that's really, really cool.
Right below this Lumberjack Intelligent Assistance group.
Philip is perpetually a platinum sponsor, so that's really good.
Yeah.
Now,
It's only a second year as platinum. I did earlier. Oh, no, Brad didn't see it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
It's Buffalo Black mug.
For some reason, I think that mug is it just a normal? I think it should be made out of metal.
No,
Something about like a
it
tin.
has that design, doesn't it? Yeah,
a lumberjack tin mug.
Oh, let me write that down.
Wouldn't lumberjacks be drinking from tin mugs and have tin utensils? You could wrap all of them. Like a little
tin's good for you.
We've done a glam version of that, We're lumber glam.
Lumber glam. There's your brand right there.
Well, when we put on the shirts and everything, we refer to that as our lumber drag.
There you go.
Another new addition to the Creative Summit is iJustine's coming back. Now, last year she was the keynote speaker. This year she must be teaching a session. I'm not sure what it is yet. Probably something to do with her millions of viewers on YouTube or whatever. But she's a big Final Cut Pro proponent, so she's coming back this year too.
I thought she was awesome last year. It was really nice to see how much she loves the platform and how excited she gets when she was talking about it. Was it her high school picture that she took with the Apple, the Mac, the old Mac?
Like the G3 or whatever. Yeah. That was really funny.
Cute. Very cute. Yeah. It's nice to see other women involved. There aren't a lot of us on the speaker roster this year.
Too few, and I know they've always put a priority on that. It's just hard to find the combination of somebody who's really good. Not that there aren't a ton of good people, there are, but just who have the schedule. I mean, you've got to be a special kind of person to be able to go take Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. You can't be working for somebody else. You have to be self-employed, kind of entrepreneurial, or you don't do this, or you're somebody that a company will send, and then you get into we've all been to conferences where everybody presenting was a marketing product manager for the thing, and that's a whole different thing.
Well, they don't do that at the Creative Summit, right, Philip?
They do not, which is one of its charms.
No.
So if you're a platinum sponsor, you don't get to do a class necessarily. Although Philip did it one year, but it wasn't about his product. It was about just mobile journalism, I remember.
Yeah, small kit stuff. Yeah.
It's not pay to promote, which is a really good thing.
Oh, we get 10 minutes to address the entire conference in the opening session, but
right.
To me, that's more valuable than stepping down and only being a table sponsor, because a table sponsor, you get to speak 20, 30 people, but if you get your message to the whole 150, it's better value, I think.
Yeah,
Spending
absolutely.
more money is better value.
Absolutely.
Chris Fenwick speaking. He's been using Lumberjack a lot.
Well, Chris, I think, is going to be doing the Jeff role this year.
As well, yeah.
Jeff's kind of hosting.
Chris is awesome.
Chris stepping up doing that, and then he's actually going to be presenting on the workflow that Lumberjack was also involved in, the NAB, kind of live thing that we were all kind of a part of. So I'm excited to see what I've sent them some pictures, and I'm excited to see what they talk about. They better talk about how Greg saved Chris lots and lots of time by logging all of our interviews.
I think it's going to
Absolutely.
get mentioned. I think it's going to get mentioned.
Better.
I'm sure he will. I have an audio interview that I did with him that I'm gonna get out there. That'll accompany his presentation. Hopefully, I mean, it was pretty awesome to see what he was doing on the stage behind the scenes there. He was cutting that stuff while they were up front presenting. He literally had to turn it around really fast.
I think we were about a half hour into the show when he was like, "All right, I'm done. I'm going out back to get a smoke."
So backstage, he was 4 people down from me to the left, and I kept looking over going, why are there small sweat beads forming? Right between the voiceover announcements I was doing for the room.
Also Brad was doing all the filming. He got him all the footage for that.
And Alan was helping me.
And Alan as well. So if
Alan must be excited to be going to Luma Forge.
Yeah, and he'll be at the summit. He says that the Luma Forge is going to have a tabletop, and so him and Gergana are going to be the Luma Forge representatives.
Excellent.
Not the full platinum sponsors from years past, but they'll still have a presence.
Oh, good. Luma Forge is a good company.
Mm-hmm.
So and then Sam's going to be there. Messman's going to be there, and then Patrick's going to be there from Frame.io this year. So it's going to be an exciting time. But listen. Every year, the Final Cut Pro team, every year at Cupertino, I should say, they always have something new to show us.
Yeah.
Philip, you don't have to say anything.
Philip sighed because he's like,
now I got to think about what
10 NDAs.
What NDAs as a developer.
Well,
He's over there flipping through paperwork.
Right. The thing is that they've always shown us something new.
It's very simple. If I know anything, I can't talk. If I don't know anything, I shouldn't talk. So
right, because otherwise,
I'm not going to talk.
Exactly.
Is that somebody in black with the little gun back there?
I was worried about the helicopter circling overhead a little while ago.
Just like lasers on the
Just
wall.
Cal fire. Don't worry about it. They're dipping water to dump on the fire.
The guy on the hill behind you with this big thing that he's pointing towards your house.
Well, we've had 2 summits already with 10.4.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to show us 3 summits with 10.4. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's just me, no NDA. This is just me, guessing. But I think they're going to show us something new. Whether they did the very first one they had that wasn't at the Juniper. Bill, you were there. What did they do there?
It was a different kind of a vibe. First of all, there was a hotel, but the hotel was in one part of, I think it was San Jose. I can't remember the little community we want.
Okay.
But the hotel was here, and then you had to walk a good little bit down like a block and a half and down another block to get to the convention center where the sessions had. So it just had a whole different feeling. It wasn't the same feeling that we've had the last couple of years of we're all at the hotel and we're all hanging out at the hotel, and then you decide, I really want to see this presentation. So you just walk to the room and do the presentation, and then you're back out in the. But in terms of content, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I remember the usual suspects were there. Steve was there. I'm trying to remember what I saw. Brian, this 5 years back.
2015 was when Alex interviewed Randy.
Oh, that's right. Oh, God, yeah, that's right. That was the year that was the first year. So we didn't know what to expect, and we all got kind of blown away.
And Apple told you to leave your cell phones on the bus and.
Yeah. Right. And actually, Phil and I took the bus over to that first presentation together. Remember that? We were sitting adjacent seat to seat as we went to the secret Apple lab.
Was that One Infinite Loop that first year?
No, it's a building on the periphery.
Vaticoy 3 or whatever that is, 3.
Yeah. I'd know this at any other time, but just
they're not at that building anymore, so I feel like I can say that I've been in there. Yeah,
so that's where the team was centered before. It was an interesting year. It was a kind of a fabulous year because
Falco Parkway.
Valcoy. Yeah, that's
Falco
it. That's
Parkway.
the thing was nobody knew what to expect that first year, and it kind of, I think, blew most of us away what happened. And this is just my experience. So you go to this thing, and I'm seeing people that I know, and so I'm talking about these personal things, but then one of the very first nights they had kind of the social hour thing, and we're just at high top tables and we're carrying along some kind of either an adult or a soft drink, and I'm at the table and I just chatting to two guys, and I said, so what do you do? And they kind of go, well, we work at Apple. And then you dig in a little farther, and there are two people on the Final Cut team. And it was interesting because nobody announced that. Nobody came up and said, I'm the product manager for Apple. Tell me what you think. You had to be, you just interacted with people. And if you asked them what they did, they would not lie to you. They would tell you exactly what they did. But they didn't go out of their way to say, I'm the guy working on Motion. I'm the guy writing Motion. They didn't say that to you.
Right.
They just were there in the room as people. You didn't know if they were, a Final Cut user from Des Moines, or as it turned out in some cases, were actually from Apple. And I remember I've told this famously a couple of times before, but I'm sitting there, and I was really active on the boards in that first year. I was a pretty strong defender of the idea of Final Cut. So I had been writing this stuff for a long time, usually on Creative Cow, but in other places. And I remember at some point, a woman came up and gave me a hug. Why did this happen? I don't know this person. And it turned out it was the product manager for Final Cut at the time. And I was a little blown away by that. And that was my first inkling that the team at Apple on Final Cut was watching all of these conversations happening out around the internet at places, and understood what everybody was saying. And go ahead, Phil.
My infamous story about that is a long time ago when the Super Meets were on the Tuesday night in the Stardust. But on the Sunday, it was a DVD Studio Pro 3 release, and I had said, it wasn't really a 3, it was more like a 2.5 release. So that was Sunday after the presentation on Sunday, so early Sunday afternoon. Tuesday night, the whole Apple team walked into the Super Meet, and it might have been Promax, whatever. And the product manager for DVD Studio say, Mr. Hodges, who thinks my 3.0 is only a 2.5? Middle of NAB, somebody was tracking what I said on the cow and reporting it back to the product manager so that by the next day he could come. So I dutifully reported for indoctrination the next day.
There you go.
But see, that's the point. We all thought that we were just talking amongst a random bunch of people there, but all this stuff was being watched. And it's not that I didn't find it creepy. I just thought it was unusual that more people on the Apple team knew who I was than I had ever expected, just by virtue of the fact that I was in public talking about it.
The very few positive voices at that time were very much appreciated by the ProApps team, because it's really hard to be in a sea of negativity that surrounds you, and that you're getting all this feedback that isn't the positivity that you'd like. So that, the few positive voices were very much appreciated at the time.
Yeah.
Even got me a free lunch.
What about now, Philip?
Well, I didn't get a free lunch out of it, but that became the beginning of people being glad to see me when I came back to these events, and being able to shake somebody's hand and sit down and ask a question with the understanding that nothing is going to be disclosed that shouldn't be disclosed. They're well suited to understand what. And actually, to amplify Philip's point about turning in, your thing, that was always, if I said, well, this isn't working the way I want it to work, then somebody would say, well, what is it you're trying to get done?
Yeah. That's always their response.
Right. What is it I want to understand the workflow that you do. And then you're going to extrapolate that out into how many people need to do this, because famously I do a ton of voiceover. That's why I'm sitting here in a voice booth. And in the voiceover work that I was doing, I had a small little list of things in voiceover. I thought, well, it'd be great if it could do this. And you could see kind of, yeah, that probably would, but how many people need to do that? How many professional VO people do we have? We have a lot of people using the voice over tool in 10.
Right.
And for a lot of things, but, I'd used it since version 1. Imagine my surprise when I went to Los Angeles and saw that thing Chione did where he was doing multi-track recording of multiple instruments using the voiceover tool as a multi-track recorder. That kind of blew me away.
Not only that, but Michael Chione he has a new CD coming out that he did entirely in Final Cut.
It's just, that's the thing. You go and you think, I never even thought of doing that. What could that mean for one person who can do multiple voices doing their own cartoon soundtrack? Because you can hear the other things, and then you could put in your parts and you could space things out later. I mean, you just think about new ways to use the tool that you're familiar with in a way that you're not familiar with. That's pretty exciting.
So we get to see the Final Cut Pro team, the Pro Apps team. It's not a one team. It's a combination of different teams within Apple. Some of it's marketing, some of it's the Pro Apps team, some of it's a Pro Video, whatever. So we get a presentation from them on Friday. After we go to the Apple Park Visitor Center, we're going to go to I'm going to presume it's One Infinite Loop again, and they're going to do a presentation for us, which they've done for the last 3 years. This will be the 4th year, which is really nice. So you go into the theater.
That part.
I do too. And then Saturday, they come to us at the Juniper. They come over to us, and we get a one-on-one, not a one-on-one, but a Q&A session with them. We typically, last year, we submitted questions in advance. We could also ask them questions live. And they asked us questions, in the audience there. So that is one of the highlights of going there. Besides meeting all you wonderful people again.
And that is the place where, in theory, you can get a little insight because when anybody asks you a set of questions, they're revealing stuff about themselves at the same time they're asking you to reveal stuff about you. So I'm very interested in that again this year to see. What are they asking us about?
Yeah.
What does that tell us about what they're thinking about right now?
Just on the Friday thing, Richard. Yeah, you're right. The email from Daniel at FMC was that it's going to be a visit to the visitor center, but then unlike last year, we have a special presentation from John De Mayo, I guess is how you say that, the Apple Park architect at the visitor center. So at least that's somewhat unique. And then Apple keynote and reception at the Infinite Loop, kind of like we've done, we did last year. So then the Saturday thing though, that's as we were talking about. That's what Bill had made the comment that they don't always say, "Hey, here we are." And here's a case where very much on Saturday it's like, "Yeah, this is who I am. This is what I do."
Right. Yeah, this never happened the first couple of years, but now they're going to reveal something.
This is the second year they've done it, and it worked well last year. They said no recording, no audio, no photographs, so they can feel more comfortable discussing things a bit more than they would just generally coming out in public. And this is the second year, and we get to talk to them. We get to be, blunt, whatever, for lack of a better word. They can also be blunt and say, well, this is something that the way we do certain things. But that is the highlight. Last year was a highlight. This year is still a highlight. So not going to the Apple Park itself is a little disappointment. But it's nothing compared to what these other two things are. The presentation from the team and then seeing the team and talking in person.
And the presentation itself isn't changing, right? Like it's just the venue. So yeah, it'd be cool to be in the other venue, but the information's the same. The people there are the same. And Infinite Loop's still a highly secured place that most people outside of Apple, unless you got a friend who's can get you in, most people don't go in there.
Well, I heard the real reason why we're not going there was because I kept saying I was going to go to Tim Cook's office, and I guess somebody took that serious.
Yeah.
I'm
Triggered
sorry.
the security alert.
I'm sorry.
You blew it for us.
Hey, but I think
Richard, it's your fault.
If the architect is going to talk to us at the visitor center, there must be a small theater there somewhere?
No, I imagine we'll have to see. They usually do up above is usually where the employees talk about the center, where you can see it and there's the benches. Okay. I'm guessing that's where we'll be with that.
Because
Because
150
otherwise there's
people.
too many people around. Yeah.
Right. 150 people there.
Well, they might split. Last year they split us into 2 groups. Maybe they might do that.
Okay. 2 buses, 2 groups. That's right.
They have that huge screen that they project onto. Remember where we bought all our T-shirts last year?
Oh yeah. There's that.
That would be a great place to do a presentation. I don't know.
I guess the question is, they're probably
so there's people there.
Yeah, not that other people would be shooed away, but
it'll be what it's going to be. All we can do is go. It regardless, it's going to be 3 days of major fun and enjoyment, whatever they set up. And Apple doesn't do kind of lame presentations. They'll have something good for us.
And the coffee's good.
You guys, the coffee's wonderful. I'm curious, you guys, about which of the sessions you're looking forward to and what you want to go and learn while you're there. I'm looking at all these sessions. I know, Bill, you like meeting people, and you've said the sessions aren't that important, but I'm just curious.
Well, it's not that they're not important, because if you have a particular interest and they are addressing it, it can be hugely important. So I don't want to diminish these. And in point of fact, I will say this is a personal thing. I have never gone to a presentation, including presentations about things that I know quite a bit about, where I haven't come away with 1 or 2 things that I didn't know before. I used to famously, back when NAB had Apple there, I had my first Mac in 1984. I bought a 128K through an accident, and that started my Mac career. So there was a point where, when Final Cut first came out, I was there very early. This was the original Final Cut, and I had helped run a users group, so I had been steeped in operating of Final Cut software for maybe a couple of years, and I leaned on the railing at NAB in like year 3 or 4 of it, thinking, well, I've been really in this. I'll know pretty much everything, and I think I came away with 2 ideas that changed the entire arc of how I used the software. 99.9% of the stuff they talked about at that presentation I did not need to know about, but 2 little things immediately were actionable, and I could go back and they could increase my efficiency. So I try not to go, I don't need to see that, I already know it. Because, maybe that's true, but maybe you're going to come away with something that'll really change how you work. Yeah. So I admire them. I just saying that if you're talking to somebody and you're really making a connection, and the thing is starting in 5 minutes, you just have to make that call. Is the conversation I'm having with this person right now more or less important than me going to begin this session right now? Mm-hmm. And that's you can't tell ahead of time. You just gotta go and be in the moment, as they say.
I'm kind of asking for a selfish reason too, because as somebody that's speaking to a group of professionals who know an awful lot about all of these subjects, you always wonder, what can I give people that they're going to take away, that they're going to remember, that's going to be important to them, So
you can't figure that out. All you can do is honestly try to give them the benefit of things that have helped, that you've seen help, and then let them interpret it how they want to. I did work for many years for the National Speakers Association in Tempe, Arizona, near where I lived, and I watched hundreds and hundreds of speakers, and the ones that always impressed me the most were the ones that had the most focus on how can I give to my audience things that are actionable that can improve their lives. To the point where I remember one presenter saying, I outline everything on big 22 by 48 whiteboard pages, and I come before my thing and I put them on the wall. And people said, what, you can't remember your order of things? She said, no, I want everybody to see everything I'm going to be talking about. And I want them to be processing that while the crowd is coming in. And if there's one thing on that they're excited about, when I get there, I'm hoping they'll ask me a question and help me clarify it for them, because that's what they need to know. And so it's that orientation of, it's not about me, the presenter. It's about all of these people, the learner, who are all different, but they need this information. They want it. They showed up. They paid for this. Just honor that. You'll be absolutely fine. I've seen your presentation. It'll be great.
So one thing
I
just
want to give people good value. I like the title you suggested for me, Richard. I'm going to ask them if they'll change my title.
They will. Just tell them. So there's a couple of things I want to say. Number one is I want to thank Future Media Concepts for putting this on. They've put it on this will be the fourth year at the Juniper, and this is like one of my highlights every year since I'm mostly involved with Final Cut Pro. And the second thing was also with Future Media Concepts, I gave away a pass to Nick Alexander he won the pass, but he didn't. The only thing is, Bill, that he needed a room to stay, so I volunteered your double bed. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. Nick will mind. What is that sound? This is not a nuclear explosion. This is Bill's back in snoring mode. Anyways.
Yeah.
What does Nick do? What's his background?
I met him at NAB a few years ago, just by coincidence. I don't know. He's on my Twitter feed. He does filming, and he's a big Final Cut Pro fan, and he was considering going, but he couldn't afford it. And he's one of the people that responded to winning the pass, and he got picked.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I like Nick. He's a good guy. Fan of Off the Track.
Talk to me offline. I might be able to help you with that.
Yeah. We're actually seriously contemplating dropping NAB next year completely and picking up the Premiere Pro version of the Creative Summit, the FMC run a Premiere conference as well, and the Editors Lounge, because from a developer perspective, from a vendor's perspective, FMC deliver a very targeted audience for us, way more so than at NAB. I mean, even the really great Faster Together stage last year, I spoke to like 3 people in 2 hours, which isn't even with the great deal I got, was still not a good deal.
Sure.
Whereas FMC delivered to me people that are really targeted, people who are going to benefit from what we do and are going to be able to communicate with us. So, from on my side, I really appreciate what FMC do.
Absolutely. I as well. The other interesting thing is that FMC has teamed up with Supermeet. Dan Berube, not Mike Horton, Dan Berube next year, and they have already announced that they're doing the Tuesday night at NAB.
Wow.
Supermeet.
There's too much backstory for me to talk about that.
I know some of it. I know some of it.
Yeah.
But it's at least somebody's doing the Supermeet this year. I mean,
Well, Supermeet's not a good. We've tried Supermeet, we've tried Fast Together stage. These do not deliver a quality customer. These are people who are there for $10 meals and complain.
No, Philip, I absolutely agree with you. That's why I always say Final Cut Pro, the summit is the biggest Final Cut Pro event of the year because it's concentrated for 3 days. And there's always it's limited to 150 people plus or minus plus the speakers, but there's always an announcement there. There's always an announcement from the Final Cut Pro team. The last 3, there's been an announcement like the day before or within 24 hours or the actual day. So this is the center of the Final Cut Pro universe for 3 days. It's not just the people that are there, it's the world. We're going to be announcing to the world, hopefully something. I mean, I think there's something new. I have no idea what it is, which is why I'm not in the beta team.
As with NAB, it was always... my wife, when I first started going to NAB decades ago, said, so did you go have fun, Tuesday night or stuff like that? I said, well, it's not really fun. That's actually the most effective work you do is when you're out around with people in a social circumstance, meeting people and learning things. And I think it's the same thing with this. It is excellent that there is a focus for people to get together with less stress, with a drink in your hand, to meet people and talk with people who maybe have solved the problems you're trying to solve in unusual ways, and you can ferret that out in these kind of settings.
Actually, the best event at NAB last year was the Sunday night's content creators celebration, which was literally that. It was a party. There were some vendors around the edge.
Right.
And if we'd had our Premiere Pro version of Builder at that point, we would have really got a great engagement. We had great engagement anyway.
Yes.
Like I said, FMC delivers the crowd that I want. So I've worked that out finally after like 15 years.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question about the Premiere Pro Builder. Are you just using markers with a certain duration, or how do you separate the ranges?
Well, that's actually the thing that Greg is still challenging on, because Builder is different from the real-time keywording, and so the real-time keywording is actually very challenging in Premiere Pro. We are working with range markers. We did a test version that we could actually also do subclips in bins for each keyword, but we can't subclip a multicam going into Premiere Pro. So we've had to set that. Yeah. Lumberjack was built on the technologies that Apple developed for Final Cut Pro 10.
Sure.
And putting new wine into old wineskins is always challenging. It has been for 2,000 years.
So yeah, the Builder side of things, it kind of doesn't matter, because you're creating the edit in Builder and then sending that XML to Premiere, and it's got your edit or whatever. But and it's able to keep the transcriptions into Premiere, I'm imagining, somehow.
Yeah, the transcripts go back into notes field on the markers.
Okay.
They also go into a closed caption track, an SRT track that can drop above. It's not automatic like it is in Final Cut, but you can just drag and drop it onto the timeline.
Oh, okay. And then but the markers, like when you have range-based markers, for example, they're not like you can't collect or search them the same way.
That's why we also did the bins with subclips. That's why the approach with that, because yes, markers are not part of the smart bin structure. It would be really good if Adobe could add markers to the things that you can create a smart bin from, and then in which case then we'd have something very akin to what we're doing. At the moment, what we're doing, we can't do the collections that we do in 10, where we have folders for people, folders for activity, so we have to use different colored markers to indicate those extra bits of metadata, because we're having to encode it in a very non-obvious way, because there is no way of doing the obvious encode. So we have to, people is purple, I think, because it's the alliteration.
What about
not because of the purple people eater?
Yeah, well, that's right. That is purple then, because I made that very same joke.
There you go.
What about, have you guys tapped into Resolve's smart bin capabilities? Is it limited like Premiere's?
At this point, there is absolutely no way to get any time-based metadata into Resolve at all. You can't bring a transcript in. You can't bring any time-based metadata in.
Wow.
Not to a media pool. No.
That's because that's right. They kind of neuter the XMLs quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I mean, I've got to be careful what I wish for here, because if they start to bring bin information in and then translate bin information between the two apps, it could be kind of bad for another business that I might be involved in. But I think we'll always do a better job than that. But yeah, so at this point, there is no way for us to bring in time range metadata or even anything but a sequence. So you can go out of either version of Builder. When you start a project in Premiere or start a project in Final Cut Pro 10, and then export the story back to Resolve. That's one of the things we promote. So that might be a good place to finish, but we can't start in Resolve because we can't get that metadata out and send them the pool of metadata with the pool of clips back.
Okay. Just curious what the capabilities are. It seems like Final Cut's still your best option with the Lumberjack software, but
I think Lumberjack will always work best with Final Cut Pro 10. This is a fairly Final Cut Pro 10 focused thing, so I'll be cheeky and say that, well, if it's a little less in Premiere, that's fine, because that's what Premiere Pro users are used to.
Phil, what are you doing there?
I said I was going to.
Everything spoken in this conversation is the opinions of the individual.
Well, I think we probably all agree with that.
Yeah. I make this point to my friends at Adobe, and Adobe are incredibly supportive in terms of working with a company. Adobe are much easier to work with than other companies that we've had association with. They go out of their way to support their developers and promote it.
Yeah, we see that. Yep.
So I'm not dissing Adobe in general. I'm just making a really nasty piece of.
I have to imagine they know. I mean, there's a reason why they're developing Premiere Rush, right? Like they know that Premiere Pros, the way it's built now, its days are limited because I've been using it on a job every week. The job I was on last night, and it's got a lot of clunky interface problems, and it needs and when I've been at NAB and mentioned it to certain Adobe people, I won't name anybody, but they're like, yeah, we're working on it, and it's clear why Premiere Rush is something that they came out with.
Isn't it funny that the magnetic timeline, which was totally not for any professional, it's turned up in Resolve as the Clips window, and it's turned up in Adobe's world as Premiere Rush. I mean, really. So for something that was a really bad idea, it's been copied a lot.
Yeah, it's in Resolve's cut page is a magnetic timeline. LumaFuge has magnetic timeline capabilities. It's clearly. And I've always said that I've said this on the radio show plenty of times, but I look at it as a storyteller's way of working as opposed to a technician's way of working. The magnetic timeline, why would you randomly have an arbitrary amount of blank space? Why would you do that?
The way to think about it is in 8 years, the tool you're working might be where we are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a comment. We got a comment on Facebook, Fred Rhodes III. I really think that Final Cut Pro for mobile would be an insane announcement, also with Final Cut Pro 10.5.
Isn't that called iMovie?
Well, I think it's called LumaFusion.
LumaFusion.
Yeah.
LumaFusion does things that NLEs don't do on the iPad.
Yeah.
So
I honestly don't know why Apple would spend the resources to develop a mobile version of Final Cut Pro 10 when we have LumaFusion. It's already there. It's like, what advantage is it going to be from Apple? Because you can already go from LumaFusion to Final Cut to finish. So
right.
Well, there's a couple things I see. I think iMovie should be beefed up a little bit because I've talked to consumer users, like the housewife or the guy just making some presentation for his company, and there's certain limitations that they've hit in iMovie. And these are consumers, not professionals. So I think iMovie needs some further development. And then especially for does iMovie have, maybe they've fixed this now, does it have a portrait mode that you can edit in vertical video? I don't think it does.
Good.
A little, well, it should. It should support Instagram vertical video. It should support all the consumer formats and make it really easy to switch between it and automatically change the graphics. So there's room for improvement on the iMovie side to come a little bit more. Now with Sidecar, we can start experimenting with what is it like to work with an Apple Pencil and Final Cut. I can't imagine that because Final Cut was designed for point and click. I can't imagine that it's totally there yet. But I could see those worlds melding, and we know Apple's hired some cloud people. We've seen job listings for that, for pro video apps and people working in the cloud. So eventually these worlds will have to collide, but we're probably a few years away from really seeing that. And LumaFusion today is an excellent solution for people who need that workflow. Apple's not going to be able to top that right now.
No, I don't see them topping it. I've asked them what they would do if Apple bought them out, but they said they had to see what the offer was, but they're pretty satisfied working the way they are now. So
always take that meeting. Always take that meeting.
Absolutely. It could be a life changer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Brad, your point about iMovie, though, I have to tell you, when the iPad Pro very first came out, I bought one of the first ones, and I went to CES, and I shot on the iPad Pro, and I edited on iMovie, and I made money because I was hired by people to literally film interviews in the booth and sit down on the floor of the booth, literally, and cut something really quick and add titles and music and put it up so that they could promote it in their booth. And I made money with iMovie. Yes, it's very simple. And I thought, oh boy, my friends are going to be laughing at me because I'm using iMovie. But you know what? It was great. It was absolutely great. I went all over CES interviewing people in the booths, and I would do it again.
So with
that's
LumaFusion,
one of my longtime themes. Anything that significantly removes friction out of a workflow is worth your time.
Yeah.
Because that's the bottom line here. Things move fast. Things move, things get more complex, and they're going to get more complex. And you need things that take friction out of any kind of workflow.
Yeah.
Which is why we're all please, please, please. Everybody wants to get this Blackmagic Apple / Adobe / everybody mess with Blackmagic Raw and raw formats and stuff like that solved somehow.
Well,
I
I think that's coming. I don't see, people keep saying, well, this roadblock, that roadblock. But listen, first off, Apple has already worked with Blackmagic on the eGPU. They've already worked with Avid, and they've co-exchanged. Apple's going to make the 64-bit drivers for their Avid codecs, and Avid's going to put ProRes RAW in Avid. There's no reason why Apple and Blackmagic can't do the same thing. I think it's just a matter of I think it's coming, is what I think.
The issues are up at the Titan level of the clouds, where these are gigantic strategic things, and we mere mortals, I don't think, have any kind of an idea why this is all happening.
I am confident that they'll
I am too.
come to terms. It's just, I'm sure it's on one level, I'm sure it's Apple's pickiness about how well things perform in their software.
Right. Sure.
So that's I think that's one of the roadblocks, but I'm sure we'll get it. I'm not worried about it at all. In fact, I spent money on a Blackmagic Pocket Camera because I'm confident that it'll be resolved. I don't want to edit in Resolve.
Right. If I bought a camera right now, I would get the 6K a Blackmagic one. It's just incredible from what I've seen with that for that price point, and just And it's EF lens. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Brad
EF
owns
lens,
one, and
yeah.
I shot with one a week and a half ago, and they are beautiful pictures, and I was very happy. And the little dongle that allows you to put balanced audio into it works one channel only, but for most interview kind of situations, that's fine. The only issue is that now that stuff, and I was shooting 4K ProRes, not shooting 6K Blackmagic RAW, and it's just big files, and it's the same thing we've all been dealing with. As every sensor size dimension, more pixel thing comes out, these file sizes keep getting kind of logarithmically bigger and bigger and bigger.
Here's the irony with Blackmagic RAW and going to like the Q5 or the 12:1 compression ratio. You can actually get smaller 6K files than the 4K ProRes.
Is that right?
There's
Yeah.
a lot of processing
Yeah.
happening in there, and so just like with Afterburner and ProRes on them, they said if we want people to do a ProRes RAW workflow, we need to optimize. We need to remove that friction and let them put something in their boxes that makes that as easy to work with as DV was back in the day.
Yeah.
And so,
Blackmagic's going to be at the
Yeah,
summit.
and there's
yeah,
another.
that's awesome.
That's another
Yeah.
indication of Blackmagic
Yeah.
RAW. Blackmagic's going to be there. What levels? They're just an exhibitor, right?
They're an
I'm gonna-
exhibitor, but that's great because we get to talk to them about some of our questions. I'm also looking forward to talking to the folks at Quantum because storage is a huge problem.
Well, that's
And,
part of this issue is you're suddenly getting files that are really, really big on your desktop.
See, I've
You
been
shoot an hour of interview.
debating. I've been debating between buying a Synology. Like they have for $3,000 or less than $3,000, they have like an 80 terabyte Synology, NAS, like a server.
How many drives?
I've been debating between that. It's 8, 10 terabyte drives.
Can
it's
you do
8 big.
And
RAID
then-
6?
Yeah, I think you can do RAID 5.
Or 6.
It had a whole,
You know-
I don't know, I had it pulled up. You can do a whole bunch of different RAID configurations. That, or you get direct attached storage for about the same price. It's less space, like a 60, or maybe it's a 48 terabyte Promise technology. And I've got a Mac Mini and a MacBook Pro. My Mac Mini has the 10G connection. So I've been kind of wondering, like, should I do that? It doesn't have, the Jellyfish has the advantage of that, like, solid state drive that does some of the caching and faster,
Right.
being able to pull those smaller files faster. But I don't know what the difference would be between direct attached storage and this server if I had a 10 gig connection to it.
What would you need a server for, Brad, for yourself?
The issue I have is if I'm rendering on one computer
Right.
and I want to keep working on something on another computer,
Okay.
I'm having the files are only on this drive.
Okay. Okay.
I'm running back and
Exactly.
forth between rooms and I'm copying it
Yeah.
off of one. So even though I'm one person,
Yeah.
I've got two machines and I would love to just be able to just not
Sure.
have to think about even airdropping sometimes is a tedious thing or it doesn't pop up for some reason.
Right.
So if it was all in one place, and now that I'm shooting on a Blackmagic 6K, back to Bill's point, I'm really concerned with how much data I'm going to be churning out. And then having
Absolutely.
to copy those onto multiple drives is just going to be a pain. So I'd like to be able to have myself kind of networked, even between just two computers. would be
Yeah,
great.
because I'm looking at the same thing as a one-man band, but I have upstairs studio, downstairs studio, and I'd love to have one central place that also had speed to it, though. Yeah, I don't want it to go back to just 100 megabits a second.
I've already pitched this to LumaForge, but Josh Minnie, who's in charge of that, is they came out with the BFJ, and I think they need a J Mini, and his name is Josh Minnie, so I think that's just an awesome product all around. And I'm like, get something in that $2,500 to $3,000 or $4,000 price range that I would love to have that product. But right now in that price range, it's like QNAP or Synology are kind of the only choices.
And Synology
Now,
seems to be...
go to OWC, Brad. Let's talk offline too, because I'm going through the same thing. I'm looking at LTO so I can back up some of the media that is from projects that I've delivered, but I can access them if I need them by pulling the tapes and finding them. But I mean, I'm looking at 250 terabytes here, and I've got two computers in two different rooms. I'm doing exactly the same thing, running from room to room, and it's got to stop. It's making me crazy.
Does OWC, they have RAID drives, but do they do servers?
Yeah, they do. I think you should compare the price and look at the jellyfish maybe, and look at what OWC has. I can put you in touch with them, because I'm doing the same research right now. And, ultimately we have to make a decision based on what's best for us as media producers. But I think they do have some solutions that could help you. But
So
I'm
I was-
making a decision about who to go with
website.
now too.
When
Yeah, I was
Final,
scouring the website trying to find some sort of server thing there, but I didn't. I'll have to keep looking.
when there's a
and
new
talk to you.
version of Final Cut Pro rumored, everybody keeps on checking the App Store. But I've been checking the Mac Pro page every day and keep on checking to see
What's the price going to be for
well,
configurations? That's the
when
big
it changes
question.
from coming this fall to an actual delivery, yes.
Oh, that too. Yeah, because
Exactly.
they don't have configurations yet, right? They just say
Nope.
this is the starting price, and then they say these are the possible configurations, but we don't have price.
Yes. Like, is Afterburner going to be $2,500? Is it,
I hope not.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
hope
I mean
not
the
as
red
well.
the
But
Red's card was their Red Rocket card was $6,000 or something.
that's what I'm
crazy.
saying. So I hope it's not. I mean, I don't work with ProRes yet, and I'll wait before I buy a camera for the GH6 to see what that offers, since I have all my lenses and stuff. But listen, since I've been using this thing, I am using the new iPhone. I've been using my GH5 less. This thing is really shoots incredible. I don't know what they're doing. And one of the things that I talked about prior was I wasn't enthralled with the ultra wide lens. I love it now.
Oh, I love it.
I love it now. I use it all the time.
I love it. I have
And
two of them. I have two of them. I have A cam and B cam of the 11 Max Pros. I love it.
And when you shoot a photo, as long as it's not in like low light mode or some other modes, is it true? Like, didn't they demo that you can actually like pull out of your photo after you've taken it?
That's one of the options you can do in the camera preferences to record outside of the frame.
See, I think that's the future of cinema too. Like, we keep talking about cropping in on 4K, on 8K, and whatever. You have all this room to crop in. I think we'll be tightening up our frame, and we'll be able to have the choice to loosen it out in post if we need to, which I would prefer DPs worked that way, give us tight shots to begin with. And then if we're like, oh, we're missing a little bit we have some flexibility. I think
all I see in the field is you spend an hour getting your shot just right and lighting it perfectly, and then somebody remembers you can pull out. So you pull out and you go, oh, shoot, the lighting plot is only for the center plot. I got to completely redo my lighting.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I've been
what I'm dealing with the wide angle on the new phones is the barrel distortion.
But that's there. But that's kind of expected, and it's kind of like if you didn't have it, you'd kind of be saying, wait a minute, it looks weird. So I agree, but there are ways you can take care of that with filters. So I've
Yeah,
been
you can go
watching,
into Lightroom and fix it. You can
and
go
I
into
think
Lightroom,
Alex
it'll fix
4D
it.
has a filter to get rid of that. So
They
I've
all
been
have it. I use Luminar, and Luminar, you can. All these things are completely being rewritten, and it's a very exciting time for software and for image processing, both stills and video.
so I've been
This is
watching Patriot on Amazon Prime, and every time they do the credits, Glenn Ficarra name comes up, and I keep stopping and say, "Oh, that guy did Final Cut Pro, did a movie in Final Cut Pro." I wonder if he did the series in Final Cut Pro.
No.
Dude,
No,
what?
it was only Media Composer.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, you're talking about This Is Us. Yeah, they talked about that when they were at the summit a couple of years ago. That John and Glenn, they said that we had to go back to Media Composer for the show just because it's so tightly integrated into the broad, the
that's
station.
understandable.
And yeah, it was kind of funny to me because they're like, it's so painful. It's just watching these editors, and you're like, oh, we could do this so much faster.
Well, yeah, Mike Yanovich is coming to the summit. He's doing a presentation with Mike Matzdorf, two mics.
Yeah,
and he 25 plus years on Avid, and now he switched to Final Cut. So,
Yeah, I met Michael at NAB after a lot of back and forth on Facebook, and it was really interesting. It was funny. He had a technical question about exporting some issues with exporting DPX sequences or something.
Right.
And I said, actually, and I whisked him over to one of the engineers, and I said, he has a question for you. So that was the fun of knowing some people at Apple, then being able to, and he's like, here's my card, and yeah, let's solve this problem. So they're very, very eager to make the software work for us. They're just not necessarily as public as like Adobe, for example, or Blackmagic.
So what day is everybody getting to the summit?
I'm driving there Thursday morning.
Thursday morning, yeah. There's no reason to spend Wednesday night. And in fact, the room rate was significantly higher Wednesday night than it was Thursday.
Right.
Yeah. We're driving to Santa Cruz the night before, spending Wednesday night in Santa Cruz and driving across because getting up there for the 12 o'clock on a drive means way too early for my taste.
Right.
Yeah. I think I land at 9:30 or 10 a.m. and then I have a couple hours to get into the hotel. And
so I'm coming in Wednesday night, but I'm flying into what's the close? Is it San Jose Airport?
San Jose.
For the first time. I've been to SFO the other 3 times. So this will be the first time I'm that close.
It's a small but very nice airport.
And the transportation, do I use Uber or Lyft or?
You can use any of those. Sometimes I don't know if this hotel has a shuttle back and forth. I've never done it. I've always done Uber, and in fact, usually I see somebody in the line for cabs, and we usually share one. One thing though, keep your eyes peeled in the San Jose airport. They have, if it's still there, a like Jetsons era robot with a touchscreen in the center that cruises autonomously around the airport and has flight information in her, I'm not even sure because robots, belly. And that's like, I know I'm back in San Jose when you see, I call her Rosie the robot. That's not her name. I was stealing it from the old TV show. But it's fun.
Okay.
I'm going to have to jump out. It's getting close to 11, so I need to be somewhere else.
Very
it was
good.
great chatting. It was great
Glad to see you, Phil.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See you in the summer.
We're going to see
you next
everybody
week or the week
10
after.
days. Like 10 days we'll be seeing each other.
I have so much work to do. I better get on it.
Okay.
Bye.
See you later, Phil.
Bye.
Bye.
So I'm looking up Uber rates for you. It says Uber. Where is it? I was just looking up Uber rates. I might go in I'm staying with friends on Wednesday. I'm flying in on Wednesday and staying with friends. So I may not go to Cupertino until Thursday, but there's a chance I might be there on Wednesday night. But
I wouldn't be going Wednesday night, but my hotel's taken care of, so I will go in Wednesday. And I'm staying through Saturday. I'm going to stay Saturday night too because my flight leaves early Sunday morning. I didn't feel like rushing out. Well, I only have one flight back to the East Coast nonstop, one each day. So I don't have a whole lot of choice. I have to do certain things.
Yeah, that's why I'm staying Saturday night too, because there was nothing coming out of there back to San Diego that worked time wise. I would have had to run out of the last session
and that just
run to the airport. That's
kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
And then
what
Thursday
time of
night,
day are you coming in, Richard? What time of day?
are
you arriving?
before noon, If
Okay,
things,
you can probably get an Uber for about $20 if you're in what it says here. If you're in surge time, it could go up to 45. So
Yeah.
anyway,
yeah,
all
so
right.
that's what I figure. I'll just when I get just before I get in there, it's really weird. I'm going, they changed my flight from the original time to an early morning flight, so I'm going to take that one. But it's this main
Good.
thing is it's nonstop. I'm not going to switch planes or go to airports. I can't be doing that. So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I'll get in Wednesday afternoon, and I'll just relax and find somebody to have dinner with or whatever.
There'll
And,
be people around.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. So if it's not surge, it won't be too bad.
No, not at all. It's close. I think it's about 20 minutes away.
So we're
I
like
think.
10 days away. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks from today, we'll be getting ready to leave.
There you go.
I'm excited to see
Excuse me.
Frame.io there too. That's going to be fun and
Yes.
ceremonic with their sound. And I use Hedge every day. So
Yep.
what's new with them? There's so much going on. And like you said, Bill, the networking and the sponsors that are there. It's going to
And
be
Number
great.
Forge is going to be there on a table, Brad said. So that's very cool.
I just saw your thing pop
Yeah.
up, Richard. Mads is gonna. I wonder. Are you guys coming? I saw something about the guys from
They were in
Metronome
San
being
Francisco.
in the U.S. Yeah.
They were in San Francisco, but I mean it's really early. I mean, maybe they're flying back to Denmark. It's too. I wish they'd
Yeah, that's a
timed
long
that.
stay. Of course, they may
I
be
know,
doing
but
a show
fun
here.
to
then
Who
see
knows?
them
again- Some people do long trips, so I don't know.
Yeah, we got two Aussies coming this time. They're both our friends, Ian Anderson and Lee Herbert, both coming
Always
from
good to
Australia.
see
That's a
Ian again.
long flight for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be
It-
fun.
So Rob Fisher says November the 6th because I'm coming from overseas. Where overseas is Rob Fisher coming from?
I don't know, Rob, so I don't know where he normally lives.
I don't
But that's
either.
cool that people come in from all over the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, they've got to tell us something new. They can't be pulling these Australians in and just going over 10.4.7. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry.
I'm telling you, it's the autonomous flying car.
That could be. That's
It's
fine.
my story. I'm sticking with it.
Rob's coming in from Germany. Fantastic, Rob.
Ah.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's great.
And
That's
go-
great.
Make sure you say hi. Everybody here will be there. We're very approachable, except for Bill. He's grumpy sometimes. He has to.
Yeah, I'm annoying.
He has to get coffee before he
head's
talks
down.
to him.
Well, I'll be in my lumberjack shirt most of the time, so it'll be easy to find us.
Yeah, Serena will be
it's-
wearing plaid.
It's easy
I'm in
because
my-
everybody's in the lobby.
Buffalo plaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the lobby.
Yeah.
So
I love
all
it.
the time. So between sessions. So that's good. That's really cool. And the other thing about this time is they're only having 2 sessions, no 3 sessions like they did prior.
Yeah,
Simultaneous.
two
Yeah.
sessions, but they're doing the videotaping thing for
Yes.
people who can't be there. So
For
that'll be
90
interesting.
days.
So
You can see it for 90 days after the event.
Well, that actually changed my presentation a bit, which I'm still working on, but I have to make sure that I have music that's licensed.
Right.
that's right.
Oh,
Right. Well, you should
You
always
know
do
how
that.
normally you show clips or you have well, if you're just doing a presentation in a room and they're not going to sell the tapes, then you can put whatever you want because it's fair use. But I have to be very careful now. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
absolutely.
for-
So we got a comment in Facebook from Ernest White says, "Gosh, I would love to be there just to be all around you masters." And the question is, Richard, will you stream from there?
Ah.
Yes, I will be streaming.
And somebody who's been shoulder to shoulder with Richard as he's trying to get a connection to stream out every single year this has happened.
Yeah, so I will be absolutely be streaming. I'll be streaming all the days. Now, I'm not going to stream the sessions other than maybe a couple, like 1 minute or something. So just go to FCPRadio.com or go to the YouTube channel, Richard Taylor TV or whatever. I usually can stream to all the platforms at once, even mobily. So yes, I will be streaming a lot of the stuff, the lobby stuff, Apple Park, but not the presentation. I'll do some stuff from there. Absolutely.
He'll do the absolute maximum he can, depending on the internet connection that he can.
Well, here's what else has happened. I've been saving my data. I have turned everything off because the
Data
summit
cap.
is the end of my cycle for the data cycle for AT&T. I've only used a few hundred megabytes, and I have 20 plus gigabytes. So
Okay.
I have that, and that worked the last time downstairs in the lobby area when the other one wasn't reliable.
Ah.
It says, Rob Fisher says, I hope there will be some new fancy stuff. I really look forward to the Apple Park, so I was a little bit sad to hear that we did not be able to go inside. We're going to the Visitors Center, and we're going to get a special presentation, and we're going to One Infinite Loop, Rob. That's even cooler. That's, because we get to see the guy, the team. That's where they've always presented there. Mads says, unfortunately, we won't be able to attend the Creative Summit. Would love to have been great to catch up with you all.
No,
I'm sorry.
man.
I miss Ryan and Mads. It's always fun to hang with them in NAB.
Absolutely.
Yeah, last year at NAB, I just randomly ran into them on the show floor. So
That's the whole point of these going to these things is the randomness of it. I was in a cab ride, or I was with a friend driving somewhere, and 5 of us jumped in the cab, and it turns out that the guy sitting next to me in the cab was the motion product engineer guy. So you're going, this will never happen in your regular life, And it's this stuff. It's the stuff at NAB that happens at the Peppermill afterwards, where you get to know people who could theoretically change your life by virtue of the fact that you get connected with people who can connect you with people who can answer problems, answer questions.
Absolutely.
That makes you better at what you do. And as you get better with what you do, people give you more stuff to do.
Yep. That's part of what I'm going to be talking about. Oh, Rob Fisher, bring some money for T-shirts at the Apple store, because
that's right. You can get swag at the Apple campus. You can't anywhere else.
That you can't get anywhere else. That's exactly correct.
Right.
And they do have a nice cafe there with coffee. So.
Yeah.
Well, coffee you can get anywhere. Of course, this is Apple coffee. I'm sure it's sustainably sourced.
Well, it's good. It's good coffee. It's definitely good coffee. I get the whatever the espresso with steamed milk, whatever.
A latte. I'm gonna have
Lattes.
to jump off too. I have to deliver something to my show, so I'm gonna hop off and say thank you so much, Richard. Again, you are
absolutely
awesome. And you, Bill, and Brad, and Philip, who's not here anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and sign off. Let me see. We got a couple more comments.
We'll geek out, Serena, about servers later.
So
Rob
says,
some people.
No, sooner the better, because I'm in the middle of that right now. I'd love to talk to you about it, and I think we should ask some of our friends, because we're all in the same position. The data has just blown up, and I've got a sneaker net going, and I can't do it anymore.
I hear you.
It's terrible.
When I get my new Mac Pro and I got the studio downstairs, I got to have some kind of a solution for that.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for waking up early on this Saturday morning.
I didn't.
You didn't. Brad didn't.
Thanks for being late and showing us how the
throwing
rest
us
of
off. I had to redo
creative
all the
world
titles,
works,
Brad.
Still works.
We'll see you guys soon.
So we got 2 more comments. Ernest White says, you are all the best. And then Fred Rhodes III says, thanks for everything. Thank you for watching, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Hopefully we did
Bye,
something
guys.
that helped you at least a tiny bit.
Talk to you later. So see you guys in 10 days. 10
All right.
days.
Yay,
Bye.
bye.
Fantastic.